All right, so let's get started with Nolan Finley from the Detroit News and Stephen Henderson from WDET Radio. And again, I win in saying we are going to do the show from another coffee shop
This is
outstanding.
Not another coffee shop. This is like a different space than any other place.
This is an experience, really. All right, there's a lot going on in the news, and it feels like Michigan. I mean, everybody wants to get in on Michigan and see what we're thinking and feeling when it comes to 2020.
Yeah,
Two presidential candidates here this week. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I mean, you go back to November of 2016 when everyone said, well, Michigan, that's in the bag. Hillary Clinton didn't even show up here in the last few weeks of the campaign, and she lost. And that was one of the things that helped propel Donald Trump to the presidency. I think every Democrat will have front of mind not repeating that error again next year.
Yeah, that's been drilled into their heads, although they still haven't got the message entirely. You notice that Beto O'Rourke had to hurry up and add a Detroit stop. I think they both did. They had to add a Detroit stop. I mean, they still don't get the importance of coming to Detroit and courting that very important African-American Democratic voter base that stayed home in 2016 because they were ignored.
And not just the African-American base in the city, but the Arab and Muslim population here in Dearborn was one of the things that disappointed Clinton in terms of turnout, both in the primary and then again in the general.
A lot of concentration on Macomb County again.
Well, there always will be because it is a voter-rich county that does seem to mirror the nation, or does seem to be a influence leader in terms of the national vote. You've got to pay attention to Macomb County. But if that's the only place you come to as a Democrat when you come to Michigan,
you'll definitely be missing out. You know, Governor Whitmer has said, kind of made an open entree to all the candidates. Come to Michigan, make sure you come through here and talk to people about what are the biggest things on their mind. And I asked her, I said, well, what do you think that people will tell the candidates? And she, again, said roads and education, which is really the forefront of her agenda as well. But what do you think are some of the issues that are going to start kind of taking the center stage when it comes to national elections?
The thing that Donald Trump was able to tap into in 2016, I think will again be on people's minds in 2020. And that's this idea that even people who have jobs, have secure jobs at this point, don't feel like they're able to get ahead. It's this sort of lingering economic insecurity people have that they're falling behind. He was able to sell people on the idea that the things that are to blame for that are things like NAFTA, bad trade agreements, bad trade imbalances, and that he would fix them. I think in 2020 the question will be whether he's made enough of that case to prevent Democrats from coming here and saying, you got swindled, right? You bought one thing and you got another.
Yeah, what do you think, Nolan?
I think it was, I agree with that, but I also think it wasn't as much as what he said and the message he brought, as his willingness to take a position, take a stand, and take firm stands, clear stands that people could see and identify with, or at least appreciate the fact that he was willing to say, this is what I believe, this is where I stand. You listen to, and I didn't see much of Gillibrand, but I saw O'Rourke come through yesterday, and every question, he had this nuanced answer where he's afraid to define himself. Donald Trump was not afraid to define himself, and in a crowded primary, that's important because with 16, 17, 18 people in that primary, you don't need 51% of the vote. So you need a hardcore group of supporters to push you through those early primaries.
Well, speaking about civility, you guys shared a byline this week, which I thought was really interesting.
First time ever.
In the Detroit News for the first time.
Is near.
Seriously, everything blew up. But I thought it was interesting because, I thought, well, how'd they write this? And you told me, you're like, I wrote something, he wrote something, we kind of put it together, and I think that totally destroys the mirage of people thinking that you sat in the same room.
People think we did it together.
We're still here, aren't we?
That word doesn't go there.
That would have led to bigger incivility.
Nolan wrote it and sent it to me.
How's the project going so far?
Well, it's going good. We're getting a lot of people signed up. This is the Detroit Regional Chambers Civility Project, where we hope to do on Mackinac, or have the people who are attending the Mackinac Policy Conference do what we did a few weeks ago at the Detroit policy conference, and that is just sort of lay the groundwork for civil conversations, learn something about each other, and learn to appreciate your differences rather than sort of be threatened by your differences.
Yeah, and so you think that you can kind of put this to scale?
I think so. I think on a community-wide basis,
Yeah.
it's possible to get people to think differently about how they interact with people they know or know of, and not indulge insult or worse in sorting out their differences. I think this is a very different kind of experiment from trying to solve the kind of incivil discourse and things that we see at the national level, for instance, right? The breakdown of the ability to just talk about things. I think when you start on the one-on-one level, you have far more opportunity to convince people that it's possible.
Yeah, well, we're going to follow along this project and see how it goes, and kind of check in with some of those people who are going to be getting together and talking about it. All right, thanks, guys.